What up, YouTube? Ed coming back with this video that is incredibly long overdue. Finally had some free time to do a live video to show this off. I'm not really expecting too many people to hop on in. I didn't give any advance notice for this. So this is going to be archived for the channel. So the Inter-Revolution podcasts guys, Uncle Vinny, Paul, Doc Exclusive, Steve, Amish Dave, Michael, Lob Bois, so they can all see this video. Was hoping to actually get on the Insert Revolution podcast and open this up. That was the initial plan, but back in December, Uncle Vinny, absolutely blew up my mailbox with a 7-pound box filled with all type of cards, and it's honestly pretty scary and intimidating. Brad did a video where he didn't do it live. He filmed it, and it was like a 50 to 60, I think it was like 55-minute video. So it's a lot of cards. There's so many cards in here to go through. So I figured it would be better to do this live. That way the fellas can see me. I can interact with if anyone comes in, and just share some hobby thoughts, some things that have been going on with me. Because there was a lot of videos I mentioned in my previous mail day video. There's been a lot of videos I wanted to make that I just never got around to doing for one reason or the other, which has kind of been frustrating. I haven't really had time to do videos, and I've kind of been a little annoyed on the YouTube side of things. And yeah, I wanted to talk more about Juan Soto. I wanted to do a 2024 recap video and my outlook for 2025, but maybe I can discuss some of that in here while showing off some of the cards. But here's the note that Vinny sent me. Ed, Merry Christmas. Since I missed you last year, here is your 12 packages of Christmas with some bonus. Uncle Vinny C and better half. So Uncle Vinny, Shallon C, and better half. So I'm telling you right now, there's way too many cards in this freaking box. It's again, this is a 7-pound box. Look at all that. That is batshit crazy. And he spent $16. Good Lord. We'll do this one. They're all numbered. We'll just do this one. We'll get cracking on into this. This is number 14, which says get amongst it. Eagles won yesterday. They beat the Packers. Really happy about that. You can tell that the Eagles offense was a little rusty, but they got the job done. Look at this. Starting off with Jim Thome. Beautiful card. I should have found a better area to put all this stuff down, because this is going to pile up really quickly. That's numbered out of 100, by the way. I don't think I said that. Eddie Mundo Sosa. Man, the glare's horrible. Numbered out of 50. Carson Wentz. Patch. Boy, he did the Bengals no favors. The Chiefs absolutely sandbagged that game against the Broncos. They didn't even try to score in that game. In the modern NFL, to not even score, that's kind of crazy. Numbered out of 25. We got John Keaton's favorite Philly of all time. He likes this guy more than Reggie Jackson. Nick Castellanos. Oh, we got a PMG in here. Let's get this painter's tape off. Look at that. PMG, Wade Allison, numbered out of 100. And that is in a CGC 8.5. Like I always tell people, CGC slaps that 8.5 on every submission. Every submission, you're guaranteed a couple 8.5s. It's a lock. That's a beautiful card from Upper Deck Metal Universe. What a beaut. Weston Wilson, autograph from Topps Chrome. Solid player. I believe he broke the record in Lehigh Valley for most hits in a season. And for whatever reason, Rob Thompson was very resistant to give this guy an opportunity. But every time he came up to the plate, he got base hits, doubles. Very serviceable player. I don't know how the Phillies season's going to shake up this year. I'm kind of pessimistic about how the Phillies are going to do because it seems like they are kind of tapped out money-wise. They didn't spend absolutely no money in this this free agency, and their window, in my opinion, keeps kind of closing. They had 2 golden opportunities against the Astros in the World Series and then against the Diamondbacks in the NLCS 2 years ago. Beautiful Rhys Hoskins autograph. But they just keep regressing, and the division's getting better. The Braves have gotten better. The Mets obviously got a lot better getting Juan Soto, but the Phillies just keep trending in the wrong direction, which is unfortunate. So I don't have the highest expectations for them this year, but we'll see. Kyle Schwarber. That's numbered out of 75. Schwarber's been one of the he's been one of the really good signings that the Phillies have done. He's definitely been worth his contract. Speak of the devil, Juan Soto, numbered out of 50. Awesome card. I talked about it a little bit in my previous video, but moving forward for Soto, going to hold on to a lot of his – I'm holding on to all of his 2018 stuff. And obviously cards after that, like the 2019 and the 2020 stuff, the stuff that means a lot to me that has the sentimental connection, I'm going to keep. And also any gift that anyone gave me regarding Soto, obviously I'm keeping. But this is Nick Castellanos, again, Keaton's boy. I'm keeping all that stuff. But a lot of the inserts, refractors, some of the slabs that I got recently, that's I'll probably wind up moving some of that stuff. I'm definitely downsizing the Soto stuff. And I sold actually a couple cards to Big Scott, so he should be getting them soon because Big Scott is a Mets fan. Beautiful Rhys Hoskins card. Big Scott's a Mets fan, and he's now collecting Soto. But that's just one of the perils of collecting a modern player. I'm a pretty passionate baseball fan, and there's two teams I absolutely can't stand. Number one's the Mets, and number two's the Astros. So I had a feeling that Soto was going to go to the Mets because they just have a lot of stupid money to spend. I was hoping the Yankees would re-sign him, but obviously that didn't happen. This is a beautiful JT Realmuto patch autograph. Jesus Christ. Look at that. But yeah, I can't collect a player that I'm actively rooting against their team, and I'm basically rooting against them. So it just kind of would be weird to continue collecting said player. Really nice Harper. Especially on a team that, I cannot stand. Awesome Bryce Harper. Vinny, that was those were so many ridiculous cards in there. Thank you so much. And we got way more to go. Number 9, don't know what each of these are called. You can always check with Topps 85401. Nate. So yeah, just downsizing some of the Soto collection. Obviously, like I said, keeping the 2018 stuff. Probably keep the majority of 2019 stuff, and some of the SSPs that I have, I'm definitely holding on to. But other than that, like a lot of the inserts and stuff like that, I'll probably just move on, fire sale it out of here to people who either collect Soto or Mets fans who want to now start collecting Soto. Dylan Cousins. Nice card. The GOAT, Michael Jack Schmidt. Reese. Philly show was a lot of fun. I know I talked about it a little bit on some videos, but I didn't really get around. Shout out to Dave Archer, big Bobby Abreu fan. But I didn't really talk a lot about my interactions, and I always like to do that after the Philly show to document the experience, how the dealers were, and some of the odds and ends on interactions, because that's kind of like the secret sauce, in my opinion, of a lot of card shows is the interactions and the experiences that you have at these shows. Because sometimes you'll hear some batshit crazy stuff come out of dealer's mouth or from attendees' mouth that you're like, are these people serious? But for instance, I had one dealer that had a lot of really, really awesome non-sports autographs, some Game of Thrones stuff, a lot of the Rittenhouse Archives stuff, cards and autographs. And he didn't have anything priced, which was a little frustrating, and looked up some of the prices on a couple cards he had. And when I tell you, he was triple to quadruple prices from what they sold for. So I had a pretty in-depth conversation. I probably was at that guy's table for 35, 40 minutes talking to him because he had one card in particular that I was really interested in. And he just told me flat out, he's just like, I'll just hold on to this card. I don't care about selling it. I'm not really here to sell, which I thought was kind of crazy coming from a dealer that they set up at a card show and they're not really there to sell. But he wanted triple what the comps were. And my compromise was to give him double. So I was just like, listen, I'll pay you double what the comp is because I do really want the card. And he was just like, no, that's too low of an offer. That's too low of an offer. double for the card is too low. The card I think sold for like 60. I was willing to do 120. But he wanted quadruple of 60. So 60 times 4 is what he wanted. And I was not willing to do that. Young Edward. But then I was kind of taken aback that he wasn't going to take double for the card for what it sold for, especially since I offered $120. So I was kind of asking questions to him, and I said, well, do you honestly think that anyone's going to come and offer you 4x what the last one sold for? And this is a reoccurring, like, this is not really a sports related issue. I've noticed this a lot with non-sports, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. Non-sports has like brought in a lot of speculators and investor types, especially like vintage non-sports and even modern non-sports, like a lot of the autograph sets, whether it be Game of Thrones, James Bond, Harry Potter, Batman, not really Star Trek, the Marvel stuff. A lot of those people will just like ask insane prices for the cards, which is their prerogative. It's their cards, they're selling it. But when I asked them to explain the prices, Drew, awesome card. When I asked them to explain the prices and how they come up with that price in their mind, this guy literally told me that sales on eBay aren't real. He's like, most sold listings on eBay aren't real. And he told me emphatically that you can never go by an auction. A sold listing auction price you can never go by. So I was just like, this is definitely a good learning experience for me. And you're delusional, sir. But again, it's your card. You can ask for whatever you want for it. Have a nice show. Stay blessed. But again, you're spending all that money to set up at the show. Like, you're going to need some cash flow. You're going to have to sell some of your inventory. Unless you're a multimillionaire and you just don't care. Which could always be the case. He could be a multimillionaire. And he's just doing this for recreation, for fun. Man, we got a lot of really nice hockey cards here, Vinny. Hooking up the Flyers PC. Greatly appreciate Simone Gagne. I was telling Vinny and a lot of the IRP guys that there was actually a really good hockey presence at the Phillies show. That back room, the newer back room that they added on the extension to, there's some TCG in there. But there was about like 3 to 4 hockey-only dealers, which the Philly show's always had an okay amount of hockey. There's definitely a lot of Flyers-related cards. Shane Gostisbehere Ghosts. There's definitely a lot of hockey-related cards there, but I wouldn't say there's like too many hockey-only dealers. But the last show definitely had about, I would say, at least 10 dealers, 10 tables that just had predominantly hockey. And there was some vintage hockey. Travis Konecny, this guy talks a lot of shit on the ice. Definitely a chirper. But yeah, there was a really good amount of hockey. Awesome card. Relic. Scotty Hartnell. He still works for the Flyers. Well, technically Comcast, I guess you can say. He does the pre- and post-game for the Flyers on Comcast Sportsnet. Awesome player. Going to try to go through some of these comments. I do see a couple of them popped up. Doc exclusive in the house. My Canadian brother going over the border and finding all the 50s. Rick, thanks for stopping on by. Appreciate it. My boy Bink Scott. It's definitely going to take a while, Rick. Saul, BD Kane, how you doing? We got Orlando here. We got Steve, excuse me. Happy New Year to you as well. We got Carlisle. Not sure the Braves are better, though getting Strider and Acuna back early in the season improves them. Without a doubt, the Braves were, as you know, were injured last year. They're going to be healthy now, and a healthy Braves team, in my opinion, is going to be better than the Phillies moving forward, especially since the Phillies haven't addressed a lot of their core issues, being the outfield. Their outfield is such trash, but we'll see what happens. Losing Fried hurts. I think Strider's definitely going to have a strong season for you guys. The Schwarbarian. Oh, Carlos is here. Paul, thanks for stopping in, Paul. Carlos, for accuracy, you should label this one as Dave. That's probably correct. I did think about breaking this up into multiple videos, but that would just, I feel like that would go on forever. Big Scott being a Mets fan. Kin's here. Kin, thanks for stopping on in. Barry Wood, the troll on that's someone's burner. Dealers that don't have prices are the absolute worst. I don't even bother stopping. It is kind of frustrating as a buyer. It's frustrating when you go to a card show, especially a bigger show, whether that be like a Philly show, National, a White Plains, Chantilly, and you do walk by a dealer and they have absolutely nothing priced, especially because you're probably thinking to yourself, you had all this prep time for one of these big regional shows or for the National. When I see it at the National, it's absolutely mind-blowing, and I have seen it at the National before. I'm like, you had literally an entire year to fix your prices, to set your prices up, and to not have anything priced is kind of batshit crazy, in my opinion. Dealer didn't want to. Orlando, I had the same mindset as you. I saw this also at the Atlantic City National, so I don't understand why you would buy a table. This guy had 3 tables too. I don't know why you would take up space, not have anything priced, and not even attempt to make a sale on a card that you would make double on. Because I'm offering double over what the comps say. It just doesn't make sense to me. But again, I don't know his financial situation. Maybe he might be a multimillionaire and he just does this for the social event, just for kicks and giggles and to put the cards out and to just have a good old time. I don't know. Carlos dropping some jokes. No tucks. Some of the non-sports stuff is crazy. I look for James Bond stuff from time to time and have a save search on the Big Bang Theory. Prices on some are nuts. And that's the unfortunate thing, Kin, because like a lot of that stuff was incredibly affordable. Even if you go back to the pandemic, when things were blowing up across the board, non-sports was still pretty affordable. But I would say within like the last 3 years across the board, we're not just talking about specific franchises here. We're talking like vintage non-sports, and we're also talking about current day non-sports. A lot of that stuff across the board has really, really spiked heavily. And the only thing that I keep going back to is there's just been a lot. It's not that more people are collecting that stuff. I feel like there's just a lot more speculation on that and a lot more investor types going in on that stuff. Because you even see it at card shows and at the National. You'll like walk around and you'll see a showcase primarily filled with like vintage baseball cards or some higher end modern or ultra modern cards. And right smack will be like 1 or 2 random non-sports cards, and they'll be like astronomically priced. So there's definitely a lot of that going on. A lot of the early to mid 2000s autograph sets of like Lord of the Rings, Some movie titles. Batman Begins is a good one. There's autographs out there of Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy, a couple other people from the Batman films, and like those cards were relatively affordable, but now they're just like astronomically priced. But like I said, that's across the board. Star Wars, another great example. Star Wars used to be relatively cheap. Even the vintage 1977 Star Wars set, that was pretty cheap, but now that stuff is like pretty pricey. Speaking of hockey, Mike Modano, Brett Hull signed. Oh yeah, the Dallas shows this week. I completely forgot. Ray stopping on by. Henry S. I've heard from multiple dealers that they come to shows to buy, and their inventory is just advertisement for what they are looking for. That would make sense in this gentleman's case, perhaps, because he did have a buy sale. He did have a buy sign up. I think it has to do with the amount of autographs, how many pack pulled autos have of Daniel Craig or Jim Parsons side compared to Soto or Trout. It's a fraction of that number. You are right in that. Daniel Craig has several autographs out there from Rittenhouse Archives, and so does Roger Moore. A lot of the James Bond people, the actors that played James Bond, even Sean Connery has a cut autograph out there that Rittenhouse made. That thing's always been expensive, though. George Lazenby, Pierce Brosnan. Pierce is very expensive. But that stuff has spiked pretty within the last 2 years, that stuff has spiked considerably from what it was selling for. And again, I chalk that up to people speculating on those cards, because the collector base has been there for decades. These aren't newer cards. These were released back in like 2010, 2011. So those cards have been there, and that collector base has been there. All right, let's get back into the Gabagool. Let's get back into showing off these cards, because we are nowhere near done. Number 8. Let's see what Vinny put here. I paid for the McDonald's value meal in Philly. Can't imagine it now. We got a little Zach Wheeler Tops Fire. JT Real Muto. Sapphire. Real Muto Black. Black border. Trey Turner. Eric Lindros, Legends of the Ice. JT Realmuto. The IRP group chat is blowing up. That, if you're, in case you're wondering what that sound is. Cracked Ice. Love these acetate cards. Joel Farabee. Bobby Clark. Man, the Flyers have not won since the 70s. Since the Broad Street Bullies. I was talking to Paul and the doc about this. Like, it's the Flyers broadcast crew. They're just like insanely homerish, which I asked him, is that the norm for like NHL teams to be very, very over the top homerish about their teams? And I was told that some teams do that, but not the majority. But You think with the way that the broadcast crew talks that the Flyers have like the most Stanley Cup championships, and it's honestly annoying because, I mean, it's been a while. It's just been a hot minute since they won Lord Stanley's Cup. Bryce Harper. Welcome to Philly, Bryce Harper. This is cool. Pat Neshek with the glasses throwback there. Mark Recchi. We got some of the insert revolution going on here. Claude Giroux. Leaf Metal. Not Leaf Metal. Metal Universe. Upper Deck. I don't know why I said Leaf Metal. Travis Konecny. John LeClaire. Legion of Doom. Black Diamond. Wade Allison. Black Diamond. Awesome design there. Look at that. Eric Lindros, medallion. Another Lindros. Look at that design. Claude Giroux. And then we got a Bryce Harper. Awesome card. Let's get a little Duncan. Oh my God, there's so many cards still left in this box. This might be the longest live stream on the channel. I think this is a Killer's reference, Mr. Brightside. Definitely a little Killer's reference there. We got Alec Boehm, who I believe the Phillies were trying to actively shop, but they didn't trade him, which is good because you don't want to trade a player like Alec Boehm for nothing. And a lot of the MLB trade rumors that I was hearing on what the possible return for Alec Boehm would be was a disgrace, especially for the kind of season he had. I know like he has maturity issues, but what like some teams were offering back was an absolute disgrace. So glad Dave Dombrowski was at least not stupid there and traded him for nothing, because Boehm, he can hit. I mean, he hit almost 280, had over 100 RBI. I think he had right around 100 RBIs. And yeah, you don't want to let a young player like that go for peanuts. That's just really dumb. So glad they held on to him. Scott Rowland. Scott Rowland was a very, very, very good player. I still can't believe when he got, and this is kind of going off on a YouTube little tangent, I still can't believe when he got into the Hall of Fame, there was people talking about Scott Rowland on here, and somebody said one of the stupidest things that I've heard on YouTube and in quite a while. Really, well, us Philly guys will bring it up occasionally, but someone said Scott Rowland was a 9-hole hitter, was like an 8-9 hole hitter who, and I quote, couldn't hit the ball out of the infield. Like, that was just so asinine. Like, obviously, you never watched this player play, so why even give an opinion? If you've never seen the player play, like, just be like, well, I didn't really see him play, but his statistics look okay. I don't have a strong opinion either way on if he should or shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. Like, you could have just said that, saying he was an 8 or 9 hole hitter who could barely hit it out of the infield. You just exposed yourself as a dumbass saying that. So, Soapbox retracted. John Kruk. All right. More fuel for the war effort. Number 12. Like Morrissey. For artist. What does that say? Or artist formerly known as Ed. Wearing my Morrissey shirt here. Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper. I'm hoping Bryce Harper doesn't get frustrated with the Phillies in the next couple years because, like I said, they made apps. In my opinion, they probably have had the worst offseason out of any of the teams. They just haven't made any moves. And if you don't live in the area, the Philadelphia area, like a lot of people were talking a lot about how John Middleton, who is the owner of the Phillies, added 2 new investors. So he sold shares of the team, added 2 new investors who allegedly were going to have a lot of money in it, that they were going to make some moves and maybe go after Juan Soto. And I was very skeptical about that as soon as that news broke because I'm like, well, wait a minute. The Phillies were never interested in Soto. They never tried to get him from the Padres. They were never truly linked to Ohtani last offseason. Adding 2 new investors. When an owner has to add new investors, I don't know. That doesn't make me feel good as a fan. Like, does he have money problems? Like, what's the issue here? And the Phillies' payroll is very high. They have spent a lot of money, the Phillies. They've given out big contracts to Bryce Harper, to Trey Turner, to Tajon Walker, who's been dog shit. Castellanos has got a pretty big contract. So they have spent a lot of money, and a decade ago, the Phillies really got into hot water when they gave out all these big contracts to Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Raul Ibanez. So that sent them into a rebuild because they dug themselves into a huge hole. Just to give contacts here. And John Middleton was a minority owner at the time. He wasn't the majority owner. But anyway, the Phillies added 2 new investors. They added a bunch of money in. But actions speak louder than words, and they haven't made any moves this offseason, or they made very, very minuscule value box level moves. And I'm like thinking to myself, the team has a lot of needs. They need to fix that outfield. The outfield is just really, really bad. If you watch the Phillies on a regular basis and you see this outfield, it's Brandon Marsh, it's Johan Rojas, and it's Castellanos. And it's such an insanely bad outfield. And I guess it's a miracle that they won because people will tell me, oh, shut up. They won 100 games last year. They won the NL East. Or 90 games, however many they won. Like, what do you talk about? Shut your mouth. But I'm telling you, I'm going to be very Wheelguy Jr. I'm going to be not surprised if they don't perform well. And I see Bink Scott is leaving some comments. And Bink, I know you and Stove have it really bad with the White Sox. That Joel Farabee, beautiful card. You guys have it really, really rough, so I shouldn't really be that cynical or complaining too much about the Phils. But as a Phillies fan, it drives me nuts because all our success, I've talked about this with Philly fans who collect mostly vintage Phillies cards, but all the success of the Phillies is in the modern era, 1980 onward. Like, prior to that, there wasn't, outside of the 50s whiz kids and 1915 with Grover Cleveland, there's not much there. The Phillies do not really have a great golden era history or vintage history. You see how horrible they were in the 30s and the 40s? Holy shit. So, I mean, as a Phillies fan, all their successes in the modern era. Juan Soto. Which is crazy because they've been around. They're one of the oldest franchises in baseball. Got a little Orioles action. This is a Wheelguy card. I have the autograph version of this card, which I'm never getting rid of. I got it graded by SGC. It came back a 7, but that card is my Wheelguy card. That's never going anywhere. Donnie Hart. Try to do a little interaction with you guys, catch up on some comments real quickly. I think I see Vinny in here. I'm trying to think what was my last stopping point. Dang, did the Packers North show only to get in? Well, yeah, they had a rough go of it. Eagles defense is the number 1 defense in the NFL. Like, I feel like a lot of national pundits kind of forget that. The Eagles had one of the worst defenses 2 years ago. Like, they were just trash. The Eagles defense was so bad, but they hired Coach Vic Fangio, and man, he has done absolute wonders. I know a coordinator can't win Coach of the Year, but Coach Vic, man, like, he completely turned around the Eagles defense to such a crazy level to where they're now like the premier defense in the NFL. And a lot of people were dunking on Jordan Love there. He played horrible, but like, he was going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. So he barely had any time to throw the ball. They were constantly on him, constantly pressuring him. Then plus, like you said, Henry, a bunch of their guys got injured. So I know Dobbs got taken, like, he fell on the turf and he got messed up. I have very little interest in sports anymore. My biggest recent pickup lately are the Ginter autograph from the Boy Meets World actors. Like, that's just, like, I'm all about following my teams. Like, I should say I haven't really followed the Sixers because I'm just so disgusted with them. But Flyers, Eagles, Phillies, I'm always in tune to what they're doing. And, but I would consider myself a pretty diehard sports fan. Like, that kind of fuels my hobby in a way. I always said my collecting habit was just an extension of my fandom for the sport. That's why, like, I'm always kind of mind blown when there's people that talk about how they never watch any games or they never like follow any of the sports or stuff, but they still like will hardcore collect certain aspects of either baseball or football. Like, that to me, like, doesn't make sense unless you're approaching the hobby from a speculation investing standpoint. Then it makes perfect sense. But from a collector standpoint, I have a hard time sometimes wrapping my head around that. There are a lot of know-it-alls on YouTube. They absolutely know nothing at all. Amen, brother. Amen. I don't want to really get into talking about current day YouTube, but I'm not the biggest fan. How many balls actually reach the outfield, though? I think that's a reference maybe to Scott Rowland. Edward might want to look at the numbers on the stacks. They're in an order of 1 through 15. Vinny, they are, but like, they were like, I can't even find number 1 here. There's number 10. There's just you went crazy, sir. You went absolutely crazy. Shallon say better half. the doggos, you guys all went nuts. Shout out my son Prometheus. Eagles defense is basically the University of Georgia North Campus Eagles. I'm with you on collecting being an extension of fanhood. That's a big reason I acquire very little in the way of sports cards anymore. Well, yeah, that I understand. That I understand, Ken. And I know you're a big NASCAR guy. And you've been collecting a lot of racing. Odd, I barely watch any hockey games for years, and the collection continues unabated. give the Eric would get a like for that. Steve, thanks for stopping on in. We're already on 45 minutes, and I don't even think we're at the halfway point of this. We got the Neshaminy Mall Show veteran. Rest in peace to the Neshaminy Mall Show. If you haven't watched that video on the channel, that show's been around a very, very long time, and unfortunately, it is sayonara bye-bye is written into the sunset. So it's going to really suck because I added a lot of great cards to the collection via that show, and there were so many great dealers that attended that show. So it's really sad, and it's not because of card shows declining. That's another thing. When people talk about card shows, like, I think a couple people made videos about our card shows dying. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If anything, card shows are only going to continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger because that's where the hobby's going. It gives people a chance to network, gives people a chance to hang out, and most importantly, it gives people the ability to move cards tax-free and just selling them, whether to dealers or to other people at the trade night. And that fuels a lot of it. That's why you see the National is as big as it is, and those trade nights are absolutely bunk. Go to any National in the last couple of years, and those trade nights are off the charts. Why? Because a lot of people want to sell cards, and they don't want to sell it online. But anyway, then the Neshaminy Mall card show, unfortunately, rode into the sunset, and it was because the mall got purchased, and they're going to bulldoze that thing down. So thank you to Amazon for taking out the Neshaminy Mall card show. Scott Hartnell. Another one. Nice prism. I thought for a second that might be a Panini Instant, but it is Panini Claude Giroux. And Claude Giroux. But the Neshaminy show was awesome. I had so many great interactions with dealers there, from Wheelguy to my dealer friend Kevin, who I would always buy from. Probably, in my opinion, the best dealer I ever interacted with. His prices were always incredibly fair, and his inventory was always great. Incredible value boxes. And there was always a lot of characters, too, at the show. And there was a lot of different diverse age groups that went to this show too. There was like old set collectors that would go who were in like their 70s, who were still collecting, which is, whenever I see that I just love seeing that. I love seeing older people still collecting, still buying the sets, still buying like 2024 sets, 2023 sets. That's really, really awesome. It just shows how diehard and passionate they are about the sport and about the hobby. West Side, let's go. But I had one of the big philosophical, I guess, like conversations I had with a person at the Neshaminy Mall card show, Mario Lemieux, was this older guy, probably late 70s. He had a whole printout sheet of cards he needed for his various sets, and the sets ranged from 1952 to 2022. It was all the way up to 2022 because this was at the 2022 show. And one of the Chamonix Mall shows there. And I was helping him a little bit, going through some cards, picking them out for him, and having a good conversation with him, just talking about, hobby history and how he still collects. And this was the only time I seen this guy too. I never saw him at a follow-up show. But one thing he said to me that really struck with me, and again, people have all different types of opinions within the hobby, and they all have a lot of people have a different definition of what a collector is. And the dealer there was asking him if he had anything he wanted to sell, because he had a huge briefcase with him. And this briefcase was mostly for his papers, his checklist sheets. And the dealer asked him again, did you have anything you want to sell? And he said, I'm a collector. Collectors don't sell. And I talked to him about that. And he's like, son, listen, collectors don't sell. That's not what we do. And I don't know. That always just really stuck with me, because like, this is like obviously this guy is the age when like cards were released in the 50s. Like, he was probably a little kid in the 50s and probably like a early teenager in the 60s when a lot of these vintage sets that people oogle on about, and that is the pure era of kind of collecting. Like, people collected back then not because of monetary value. They collected because they were fans of the game. They were, diehard baseball fans, and they had their favorite players. They had their favorite teams. And to hear a guy say that in 2022 at the time, it was an interesting perspective, because the hobby's not like that anymore. Collectors sell, collectors buy. There's people that sell only. There's people that it's their side hustle. There's so much speculation in the hobby now. So yeah, it's drastically changed from when that guy was a kid. So I don't know, and it's one of the great things about card shows. It's one of the things I really rail on about card shows, is like, it's a meeting spot, and you get all these different perspectives, and you get all these different opinions. And that's his opinion. That's his thoughts on it. But like, that guy's been around for, I'm sure he was collecting as a kid, so he's been around 70 plus years. So to hear his thoughts on how he defines the collector is very, very, very cool. I just find that stuff very fascinating. But yeah, those definitely from the boomer generation, baby boomer generation. So to hear those thoughts, because again, the hobby is completely different to how, I'm sure someone of his generation approaches the hobby way differently than someone like who's a Gen Xer or of a newer generation. But I digress. But that was one of the more memorable experiences of the Chamonix Mall card show. Than my boy Wheelguy. Wheelguy got out of the hobby. A lot of people always ask me about Wheelguy, like what happened to him. Like, he left the hobby. He told me he was so frustrated with the hobby. There was a lot of things that he couldn't stand. He hated grading. The man despised grading. He thought grading was a scam. Like, he despised PSA. And he was a dealer. Wow, this is a really, really awesome card with the Philadelphia skyline back there. Travis Konecny. But yeah, he was a dealer. All his cards were raw. And honestly, I feel like his selling facilitated, because he loved doing box breaks. And he loved buying sealed wax and speculating on sealed wax. And again, this was like 2018, 2019. There was no shows in 2020 due to the pandemic. 2021 is when those shows started back up. And he dipped out at the end of 2021. He just said that this stuff was getting insane and crazy, and he just wanted to get out. But every experience with him was a blast. Mike O can attest to it. Ray from Philly. Ray met him. Mike O met him. I think Reese went to the Chamonix show. Reese ND Card Ranger met him as well. Scott Wildcat 72, rest in peace. I love sports cards. He met him as well. But yeah, Shane Goss Spear. This dude was a trip. He was funny. And sucks when a dealer like that or someone like that gets out of the hobby. But sometimes it's understandable when you hear it from their perspective. Man, just Vinny absolutely blowing up, man. Blowing up the Flyer PC. Another beautiful Claude Giroux. Numbered out of 249. Move some of these cards. I'm going to have so much sorting to do. Probably have to buy a new Z Folio to put a lot of these cards in. This is number 6. You need more hockey in your life. Ain't that the truth? We need Lord Stanley's Cup in our life. And is that going to happen in my lifetime, Vinny? I really don't think so. Don't tell the Flyers broadcast crew that. They think they're the greatest freaking organization since sliced Wonder Bread. They think they're the Yankees of the friggin' NHL. Sons of bitches haven't won anything since Broad Street Bullies. Cam Atkinson. Beautiful orange die cut there. The orange slice. Man, we got some great color in here. Travis Konecny. Another beautiful orange slice from Allure. Yeah, we're definitely going to have a Flyers Z Folio, courtesy of Uncle Vinny, Better Half, and Shallon C. I have to order one of those, get all these cards in there, and show that off in a future video. Ivan Povarov. Beautiful cards. Oscar Lindblom. Was diagnosed with cancer, but was able to beat it, thankfully. Still remember that. That was a couple years ago. Claude Giroux. Another Claude Giroux. And Claude Giroux. Great design there. But wait, there's more. Finally found number 1 here. Number 1. 25 westbound parallels. 25 westbound portobellos down. It's a reference to one of our favorite eateries in Chicago. I mean, honestly, the National, Vinny, the IRP guys are going to be there in 2025. Let's be real. One of the main reasons I'm going to the National this year is because of the food. You got portobellos, you got big chicken, but also there's a WNBA game. The Valkyries, the Golden State Valkyries, are going to be playing the Chicago Sky. So between going to that, see Kate Money Martin and the great food options, I don't know if I'm even going to make it inside the convention center, the Donald Stevenson Center. Let's go to be honest, it's going to have 125,000 people in there. It's going to be hot, sweaty. That air conditioner is going to break. It's going to take 5 hours to get out of the parking lot if you're parking. So I'd rather hit up Big Chicken. I'd rather hit up Portobello's. Go to a trade night because there's going to be so many cards there. And it's going to be wall-to-wall cards. But it's going to be a legendary time, as it always is. Miles Sanders. People are going to be staying 10 miles from the convention center. Wait, they get a wait. Reality's coming on that for a lot of people. When you when you're not across the street, it is a different experience. I'm used to it, so Joel Embiid. I'm used to it, so it's not a big deal for me. But it is quite the switch of gears when you're not across the street. Jalen Hurts, dude. I want to talk about Jalen Hurts just really, really quick. He's getting lambasted nationally from like ESPN, Fox Sports 1, CBS. A lot of people are like dunking on him. Last I checked, he did not turn the ball over. Was he rusty? Sure. He started off very slow, but he missed the last 3 weeks. So that was kind of to be expected. But the Eagles won the game, and he didn't turn the ball over, and he had 2 passing touchdowns. So why is he getting more lambasted nationally than guys like Justin Herbert, who absolutely were fucking dog shit? And like, he was god awful. Yet I turn on the TV, the national, like whether it be Fox Sports or whether it be ESPN, I don't hear a peep about that. But they're just lambasting Jalen Hurts. I completely do not understand it. It's fucking stupid. Soapbox retracted. Andrew McCutcheon. Somehow a New York Jet snuck in here. Vinny must have been eating a little too much Gabagool, and somehow Corey Davis of the Jets snuck in here. Oh, this is freaking awesome. Jay Ajayi with the Union Jack. He is British. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It's going to be curious to see what the Super Bowl is. Well, it's obviously going to be the Chiefs because they're definitely getting there. They got like a cupcake road to the Super Bowl. Been saying this all year, so it's not anything new I'm conjuring up. But the NFC should definitely be interesting. We'll see how that goes. The Commanders are playing the Lions. I would not be surprised if the Commanders pull a big upset there because they are rocking and rolling. They just keep finding ways to win, keep coming from behind, keep winning. I've seen them a lot this year, especially against the Eagles. The Eagles went 1-1 against them. The last time the Eagles played them, they came from behind and won. A lot of people were talking about how the defense fell apart. It wasn't that. Jaden Daniels just was cooking. Carson Wentz, number 5, green. But it will be interesting to see. I could definitely see the Commanders upsetting the Lions there. And that would be a pretty big upset because as far as I know, the Lions are the odds favorite to win the Super Bowl. Not only win the NFC, but to win the Super Bowl. They're the odds favorite. And we got, I think, one more. This is the final hurrah. Let me just double check this box. Yep. The final hurrah. An hour into it. So, Brad, you beat me. Brad got it in 50 minutes. I'm a little over an hour. Let's see some of these comments real quick. My boy Amish Dave is in the comments. So, hold on a minute. There's a lot of comments that I didn't get a chance to go through. Start with Carlos. I think he was talking with Ken. Vintage Card Steve, I'm going to the National this year in Chicago. Awesome, man. It's definitely an incredible experience. You're going to have an incredible time. If you're there for multiple days, just take your time, slow roll it. You don't just pick sections off to go see. and wear comfortable clothing, and it's going to be very hot in there because I guarantee that air conditioner will probably break down again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Tax-free? I find that hard to believe. Those dudes aren't paying taxes. Those dudes at the trade nights aren't paying taxes. Gave a video a like. Hey, everyone. Thanks, Hodges. Appreciate you. Mall shows are going to be a thing of the past if they aren't already used to love them, but they are so few quality malls. That's the main problem. It's not, and I agree with you, Ken. The problem isn't that the demand for the card show isn't there. The problem is that malls are dying across the country, and they don't, and the card shows can't use that as a facility. So that's why you're seeing a lot more card shows pop up in like bingo halls, American Legion halls, or Knights of Columbus halls or whatever. Been noticing that more. Also, some card shows popping up in casinos, I noticed, or a lot of hotel ballrooms and stuff like that. So card shows are going strong, but unfortunately, malls are pretty much dying out. Thank you, Henry. You did send that. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Thanks, Hodges. Henry. Man, this is one hell of a mail day. Some good people in this hobby. This is more than my COMC shipments. Dude, Uncle Vinny, again, Insert Revolution podcasts. I always singing their praises. They're all old school YouTubers. It's always a fun hangout. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, predominantly Tuesdays. But the link's in the video description for this channel if you want to check out the Insert Revolution podcast. Like I said, it's Amish Dave. It's Steve, Uncle Vinny, Michael, this film not yet rated, Lob Boas, the biggest vintage flipper this side of the Allegheny. He's also there from time to time with his chair and his bowl of cereal. But yeah, it's always an awesome time to hang out and watch the IRP. Fortunately, I haven't been able to catch them live a lot, but on the archive, I'm always getting amongst it. Burley, thanks for stopping on in. Speak of the devil, the Insert Revolution podcast for the YouTube Hall of Fame 2025. Best chicken sandwiches I've had were at Portillo's. Paul with the card immunity hashtag. It's only a hobby more than 10 miles from us. Ken, we got a Portillo's down here about a year ago, and it's in regular rotation. They're freaking amazing. Carlos. Not almost done, Henry. We still got one stack here. Don't want to talk about the game. Eagles dominated on both sides. Their defense just... I know a lot of people, again, to go back to it, I know a lot of people are really grilling, a lot of Packers fans are really grilling Jordan Love, but you got to give some credence to the Eagles defense. One of the top defenses in the league, and they did work. Jay Ajay. Lions and Bills in the Super Bowl. That's a good one. Obviously, as an Eagles fan, I want the Eagles in there, not the Lions. But I would love to see the Bills, man. I'm so sick and tired of the Chiefs. I feel like they're a lock for the Super Bowl, but I would love to be wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong. I just find it very, very difficult that if the Bills do get by the Ravens, because the Bills at home I don't think they've lost. But they're going to have to go on the road to Arrowhead, and I just don't see them. And Josh Allen, I don't think, has ever beaten Mahomes. That would be a great story for him to finally get over the hump and beat those bastards. But I just don't see that really happening. I think the Chiefs will wind up blowing out the Texans probably by either 14 to 21 points, maybe 2 or 3 scores. I don't even think that game will be close. And yeah, then you got the AFC Championship game. Bills, Ravens, that's going to be a great game. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's going to be an exciting game. I think maybe the Ravens, well, I don't know. I'm not going to give a prediction on that one. Hey, Ray. All right. We are all caught up here. We're ending with number 13. Better on vinyl. So we got a Pittsburgh Penguin in here. Mario Lemieux. Bryce Harper, numbered out of 340. Another Harp. Bryce Harper. 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 And ended it off with a beautiful Phillies uniform, Bryce Harper. Awesome, awesome card. Vinny, I said it throughout the video, way too much, man. 7 pounds in a box of cartage. Tons of Flyers, tons of Phillies, Eagles. The Gabagool was insane, sir. Just insane generosity. It took an hour and 12 minutes to get through that incredible box, and I'm going to have an incredible time sorting those out. And like I said, I think I might just do a Gabagool Z Folio and just load that Z Folio up with all the goodies that you sent. So I greatly appreciate it. Unc Vinny, Better Half, Shallon C, hooking it up. And it's going to be a blast seeing you guys at the 2025 National in Chicago. And we definitely got to get a lunch or dinner, preferably at Big Chicken. But it's just going to be a great time. Before you know it, it'll be here. It's going to come up quickly. But that's all I got. That's all the mail. We got through everything. We did it. So if anyone has any questions, because I was kind of surprised at the amount of people that did stroll in and spun in here. We did have at one point, I think there was like 25 people in here, which is very surprising. I was not expecting that. But if anyone has any questions, comments, critiques, deep questions that they want to ask, now is the time. Now is the time. Let me get a drink of Dunkin'. It dropped all the way. I just said we were done, and it went from 20 to 14. As soon as I stopped showing hockey cards. Come on, man. We got Mr. Mojo in here. What up, Mojo? How you doing, man? Mr. J. Everyone was expecting vintage. It's probably true, but we showed a lot of 90s inserts beauties off. So the insert revolution is strong, Dave. Thanks for stopping in, Jay. Appreciate it. Carlos, that was potentially, it will be vintage in 30, 20, 20, 30, 20, 30 years. I've been good. Jay, I've actually seen you a couple times at card shows. Unfortunately, uh, I never stopped to say anything. So probably should correct that because I've seen you at the National. I think like the last walking by, I've seen you like the last it's got to be since 2021. Pretty sure. Holy smokes, we got Jay fight on. We got James in here fight on 52. What up, man? I started watching you 13 years ago. So much time has flown by. It has, man. YouTube. You'll know. You've been around, Jay. YouTube is just so much different, dude. It's kind of crazy how much the hobby has changed on here specifically. A lot for the good, but some for the bad. But it is what it is, and still having a great time here in the hobby, and the hobby just continues getting stronger. I don't care what anyone says; like it's getting, just keeps going. Exactly, crazy how much it's grown exponentially, and like I said, card shows just keep growing, getting bigger and bigger. National, man, I've said it before. The next 3 years in Chicago, I'm kind of concerned about that because I don't know if they're going to be able, if the Donald Stevenson Center is going to be able to accommodate all the people going in there. Because, like I mentioned in a previous video, if 150,000 people show up, I don't know if they're going to be able to fit 150,000 people because the National just keeps growing and growing and growing steadily every single year. And I know a lot of people were dunking on the IX Center, which, in my opinion, the IX Center is a way better venue than the Donald Stevenson Center. Just my opinion. And they didn't even use the West Entrance last year, which was the crazy thing. Vintage WeskerGriff. Say what's up, mofo. I was a viewer. Still am. Since you were asking the questions now that we finished the pre-show, are you ready now to start the Carlos? I am not doing a 5-hour live stream. I do not have the will to do that. I know you Canadians are built differently. You guys are built way differently. I don't even know what to do on YouTube anymore. I mean, James, we're from we're from a completely different era of YouTube. It's changed a lot, but there's still, at the core, there's still a really good, strong community on here. So, I mean, I know with the algorithm, sometimes it makes things difficult, but there's still a lot of really, really awesome channels doing their thing on here and just spreading the joy and passion for the hobby. We were in the hobby when 4 people would comment on your video and you get like 70 views. Yeah, but like that was a lot back then. So, I mean, it's crazy just to see. It is. I mean, it's still small. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, though, it's still, like, I tell people this a lot who are like really like gun ho on like growing their channels or like have aspirations to do like bigger things. Even at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of YouTube, like if you compare it to like, I don't know, like a Mr. Beast or like a PewDiePie, like it's still relatively small, like pretty niche, very small, but it's still impressive just to see how much it's grown in the last decade. Like it's something else. The social media side of the hobby is crazy, and YouTube's only a small fraction of that. I know Mike O has talked about this as well. Like YouTube's only one little area of the hobby. Then you have, the hobby on Twitter or X. the hobby on Facebook, on Instagram, on whatever social media you want to use. So, Gary, King of Steak, what up, brother? West Coast National should happen. We get screwed over here. That's because the dealers just don't want to go out to the West Coast. I know this has been, you guys do get screwed. I'm not disagreeing, but it's because the bulk of the dealers are from the East Coast and they just don't want to travel to the West Coast. But that's why Chicago seems to get the preference, because it's like kind of like the in between spot. But in my opinion, Chicago's losing a lot of the convenience factors. The convenience factors was always there's hotels across the street, the airport's right there, and the facility's big enough. The Donald Stevenson Center is not even, I don't even think it's a top 15 convention center space-wise in the country. And like I said, the National just keeps growing steadily every year. It broke the record 3 years ago or 2 years ago from 1991 in Anaheim. Attendance record. They never officially gave us a number, but they said it broke the record from 1991. So it keeps steadily growing. And to have it in a convention center, and again, they're opening the upstairs to kind of alleviate, to add more dealers, and to try to get some more space. But I think if it just continues this level of growth that we're seeing year to year, the next 3 years in Chicago, maybe by that second year, it's going to be quite taxing on the facility, and trying to get down an aisle when you're shoulder to shoulder moving like that. So we'll see. I'm very interested to see how it goes over this year in Chicago. So 4 comments and 70 views would have been a lot for me when I was just making videos last year. Get to work, Gary. It's cool to see some of you dudes still grinding on here. I just had so much fun. I just had so much going on when I had, James, you were an absolute staple back in the day. The Bo Jackson collection, the crazy Oregon collection. And I was going back from time to time and checking out your videos. Yeah, I mean, you did a lot of mystery packs, a lot of insane, incredible mystery packs. So I always appreciate what you do, and love going back and recognizing the old school guys, because I feel like at times I have to tell a lot of the newer channels on here, like, YouTube did not start. The YouTube card community did not start during the pandemic. It's been around for well over two and a half decades. So, I mean, there's been a lot of people on here that, have put the pillars to the temple on here, so to speak. And, I thought when Cards Infinity is retiring, that was kind of the end of an era, because for a lot of people, he was a gateway to check out his videos, all his breaks and stuff. And, it just goes back to there's a huge, rich history of cards here on YouTube, and don't want people to forget about it. So it plays a little bit into why I still do my thing on here. I want to try to educate people on the history of the YouTube card community. Working and listening. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I do appreciate everyone stopping in again. Glad I finally had time, and I do want to apologize to Vinny, because, like I said, this package came back the second week of December. Finally getting it a month later to open it, but really appreciate you, Uncle Vinny, C, and Better Half, all the Insert Revolution podcast guys. Again, if you want to check them out, I'm going to leave the link down below. I highly recommend that you do. They're all old school YouTubers who have been around for a really long time and always have great and fun conversations about different things that's going on in the hobby. So that's all I got. Have a great one. Again, don't take things too seriously in this hobby. Just have fun with it. I think that's the most important thing. And have a great time. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.